So when they blow up like that and they get to that level, what are you thinking? What are your students thinking? Like, is there a sense of pride around Tom and being from Poway at that time that you could see? Like, how was it?
Ooh, so here's one that happened. This is interesting. So the buzz is happening about them. They are hot on, and they're getting all kinds of all kinds of attention from MTV, and MTV's like taking them on as the new, like the boy band thing is starting to push out, and this kind of thing is starting to push in, and so that energy is moving. And then all of a sudden, I get a call from a woman that works for MTV, and Leola Westbrook, this woman. Like this little deal. I keep all this stuff because I had folders of stuff. And I actually hadn't seen it in years until we started talking. I'm like, I know I got that somewhere in some filing cabinet.
That's awesome.
Yeah, here it is. So the MTV thing happened. So they do a show called Coming Home. And Tom's sister Carrie is a senior at the school at the time. And so Tom's going to come and invite her. They were actually talking to me about the idea of like, hey, what if we have a concert in your quad?
Oh.
Like, previously, I'm like, that would be killer. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about the image with the band, and the band's like, well, we'd rather have it in a place where all of San Diego kind of identify with it, like a place where we first played at. And I would have thought they would have played at Soma, but it ended up being in some strange little tiny place. I can't even remember what the name of the place was. It wasn't like Soma or Casbah or anything like that. It was some odd spot, but they were making it look like it was a Coming Home concert, right? Like, we're going to play in the little place that we played at before we just became this big band. And so Tom came onto the campus and did all these interviews and did all the like, hey, here's where we shot people with paintballs down our street and all this other stuff. And so they do this and they interview a bunch of us, and they only use little snippets of things, right? Like tiny little snippets, because they have a story to tell. Like, it's about coming home, and it's quick, and they're anecdotal little quickie stories. There's nothing deep. And that was it for the show, right? So as I was talking with the people from MTV, they're like, oh, you got to come up and check out some of this stuff. Like, this is really fun, and the edits are really fun, and you guys got a lot of stuff to talk about with these guys. Like, we should probably do more at some point. I'm like, yeah, love this. Like, that would be great. And I, of course, I would love to have them come back and play on the campus again, because that was like one of their first gigs, was playing on our campus and playing at Soma, So, of course, I would love to have them come back. And so it was weird. This is a weird story to tell you, because I feel a little heartbroken about it afterwards, but we all kind of got duped a little bit. So the crew that worked for MTV contacts us like 3-4 months later. And they're like, hey, we're going to do a documentary about the band. So we'd love to come and do more in-depth interviews. I'm like, oh my God, this would be amazing. So let's do this, Let's talk some stories about all these things that we kind of just talked about a little bit, and more. And so they did this with Mike Halloran. They did this with Don from that studio that I was talking about that they recorded in. They did it with Troy. Troy worked for the San Diego Reader, and they did it with a couple other guys. And they interviewed us, and we were under the perception that this was an MTV production, right? This is an authorized production. So we signed off on everything and like gave them whatever they wanted information wise. And you're thinking, okay, they're totally behind the band, and this is all band promoted. And I'm not talking to the band at this time. So I'm not really talking to Tom and going, hey, did you know that these guys did these interviews and like I'll only see them in passing. Like, Rob Machado was a mutual friend of ours, and Rob had a birthday party for his daughter, and Tom was there. But it's not like we're talking shop on a normal basis anymore. I mean, these guys are huge. So I may see them like once every couple years somewhere, at some point, or every other year or whatever. And so at this point, I didn't talk to him about it. And we get all these interviews. And then like a year later, there's a DVD that pops out in circulation, and I saw it, and I pick it up, and it's this thing, Punk Poets. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm gonna unauthorized, and I'm like, unauthorized. I see down at the bottom, it's like unauthorized documentary film packed with exclusive interviews. And I look at this thing, and I'm like, what the, like, what's this about? So played it, and I'm like, holy shit. I was so bummed because it's a bunch of bands that aren't Blink playing in the background. It's really poor quality, like, editing. It's just a total, obviously unauthorized, because it's not their mojo, it's not their vibe, it's not their thing. So nothing should have ever come out. I'm kind of pissed that anybody could actually do something like this. And I would have been bummed if I was the band going, look at all these people that were part of this. Like, you were all part of our scene in San Diego, and now you're on an unauthorized doc.
Yeah.
I'm here to correct the record for sure, because I've never really had the opportunity to tell them about it. But like, we did not know that this was unauthorized, and did not know that this was, this group that was coming in. They came in looking like they were in fact, they were the crew, because they were subcontracted by MTV. They weren't actually part of MTV. They were a subcontracted film crew, and they saw an opportunity to come back and do a bigger story and do a whole thing.
And this is the Punk Poets
don't buy this.
DVD.
Don't buy this. Yeah.
Man, and I've seen that throughout the years, and you're right. Like, it's just, I remember the first time I played it, and you're like, all right, Blink documentary, and you click on it, and there's not even Blink music. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I'm in it too, and I'm like, that pisses me off. Like, that's not cool.